Okay. So, this video is going to be a more in-depth guide on how to actually properly pre-trip the bus. This is for the Oklahoma. I'm not sure how it is in other states. Check the bylaws and everything for your own state. Now, we will begin. I have 5 clearance lights. I have a left indicator and a right indicator. Both indicators serve as 4-way flashers. They are all mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. My lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are all amber in color. I've got my high beams here and here. My low beams are here and here. They are mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. My lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are clear in color. I have my destination window and my windshield here. They are mounted securely inside the rubber trim. They are not cracked, broken, or any illegal stickers. I have my wiper blades, which are mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets. Nuts and bolts that are present and tight. The rubber is pressed firmly against the windshield, and they are soft to the touch, and they are not cracked, torn, or broken. I have mirrors on each side that are mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. The brackets themselves are not bent or broken. The glasses are also clean and clear, and they are not cracked, broken, or missing. I have a front bumper that is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. My front bumper is not leaning, broken, or missing in any way. Over here we have a panel that will be right here for your battery disconnect. If you were to pull it down, it would disconnect the battery from the rest of the bus. If you were to pull it up, it would reconnect the battery. Over here would be some air tank bleed off valves that obviously we can't see, but at the end of each business day you would actually open those up to bleed off your air tanks. Here you have a steering shaft that is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. The steering shaft itself is not cracked, broken, or missing. Cracked, bent, or broken on that one. You have a steering gearbox which is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your steering gearbox is not cracked, broken, or leaking. And it has hoses that are mounted securely with fittings and clamps that are present and tight. The hoses themselves do not have any abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. Over here you'll have your pitman arm, which is connected from your steering gearbox to your steering system, and you have your pitman arm, your drag link. You also have steering knuckles. You also have a tie rod end which ties the 2 front wheels together. They are mounted securely with castle nuts and cotter pins that are present and tight. They are not cracked, bent, broken, or twisted. You have your splash guard here and your mud flap here. They are mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. They are not cracked, broken, or torn. They are not touching the ground or the tire. The tire itself is mounted securely to the rim with a tight seal all the way around. Your tire tread is no less than 4/32 of an inch deep. Your tire tread has no cuts or holes, and it is there is no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks on the side walls of the tires. There's a valve stem that is mounted securely, and it is not leaking. It is not damaged in any way, and if you were to put a tire pressure gauge on it, you would show that it is reading 110 psi, which is the recommended tire settings, or which is the recommended amount of pressure for these tires. Your rim itself is mounted securely to the center hub with lug nuts and lug bolts that are present and tight. You have no cracks, dents, or any illegal welds on the rim itself. All 10 lug nuts are present and tight. They have no rust trails indicating looseness, and they have no shining threads indicating cross-threading. Your center hub is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. It is not cracked, damaged, or leaking in any way, and it does not have a sight glass, but if it did, then you would be able to check the axle level for fluid and grease. You have your brake system, which is mounted securely, or your brake hoses, which are mounted securely with clamps and fittings that are present and tight. Your brake hoses themselves have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. You have your brake chamber, which is mounted securely with nuts and bolts and C-clamps that are present and tight. Your brake chamber itself is not cracked, dented, or leaking. Your brake chamber also has a push rod inside that connects to your slack adjuster. It is mounted securely with pins and cotter pins to your slack adjuster. Your push rod is mounted securely to your slack adjuster with pins and cotter pins that are present and tight. Your slack adjuster itself is not cracked, broken, or missing, and it is able to move no more than 1 inch by hand with your air brakes released. You also have your slack adjuster mounted between your push rod and your S-cam shaft, and it is mounted securely with nuts and bolts and pins and cotter pins that are present and tight. It is not cracked, bent, broken, or missing. Next, you have your brake linings, your brake drum, which is mounted securely to the center hub with lug nuts and lug bolts that are present and tight. It is not blue from overheating. It is not cracked. It has no dents, no holes, and that's your brake drum. Your brake linings are mounted securely to your brake shoes with rivets that are present and tight. Your brake linings themselves are not cracked, damaged in any other way, and they have no less than 1/4 of an inch of material. Your suspension system consists of your torque arm, which goes from your center axle, which goes from your axle to your body, and it is mounted with nuts and bolts and bushings that are present and tight. Your torque arm itself is not cracked, bent, broken, or twisted. You have your airbag mounts. Your top mount goes to your body. Your bottom mount goes to your axle. It is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your brackets themselves are not cracked, broken, or missing. Your airbags are mounted securely between the 2 brackets, and it is not cut, cracked, or leaking. Your shock absorber is mounted securely with nuts and bolts and bushings that are present and tight, and it is not cracked, broken, or leaking. You have along the length of the bus is a frame that is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your frame is not cracked, dented, has any holes, and no broken welds. Your frame also has cross members which are mounted securely. They are not cracked, broken, or missing. You have a drive shaft which goes from your rear differential to your transmission and is mounted securely with nuts and U-bolts that are present and tight. Your drive shaft is not cracked, bent, broken, twisted, or twisted, and it is properly greased. On the side of the bus, you have a clearance light here, a clearance strip that will be right here. You have a left indicator light, as well as here you have another left indicator light, and you'll have a center clearance light right here that is not in this 3D model, but it will be in real life. Your indicators also serve as 4-way flashers. All of your lenses are mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. Your lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing. They are all amber in color. You have all of your windows, which are mounted securely within their rubber trim, and they are not cracked, broken, or have any illegal stickers. At the back here, you have a red clearance light. You'll also have a red clearance strip right around in this area here. It is mounted securely. Both of them are mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight, and they are both red in color. They are not cracked, broken, or missing on the lenses. Now you have your back axle. You've got your splash guard and your mud flap, which is not here, but it would be in real life. Mounted securely again with nuts and bolts that are present and tight, not touching the tire or the ground. They are not cracked, torn, or ripped. On the tires themselves, you have 2 tires on the back here that are both mounted securely to both rims. They do not have any cuts or holes in the tread. They are no less than 2/32 of an inch deep on the tread depth itself, on both the inside and the outside. The sidewalls have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. They are both mounted securely to the rims, which I believe I said that, but doesn't hurt to make double sure. You also have tire gauges, valve stems on both the inside and the outside wheel, and they are not damaged or leaking in any way. And if you were to put a tire gauge on them, both of them would show 110 psi, which is the recommended setting. The wheels are set up in a bud spacing. They don't have spacers. The bud spacing allows the 2 wheels, or the 2 tires, to not rub against each other, have no debris, and they should not be touching in any way, at any point. Your rims are mounted securely with lug nuts and lug bolts that are present and tight. Your rims are not cracked, dented, or have any illegal welds. All 10 lug nuts and lug bolts are present and tight. They are not loose, or they are not rust. No rust trails indicating looseness. No shining threads indicating cross-threading. Your center hub is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. And your center hub is not cracked, damaged, or leaking in any way. This center hub does not have a sight glass, but if it did, you'd be able to make sure your fluid levels in the back axle are sufficient as well. Your back axle is also connected where your rear differential is. It's more in the middle of the axle itself. Your brakes, you have brake hoses, which are mounted securely with fittings and clamps that are present and tight. And the hoses themselves have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. You have your brake chamber, which is mounted securely with nuts and bolts and C-clamps that are present and tight. Your brake chamber is not cracked, dented, or leaking. It also has a push rod inside of it that if you were to release the air brakes, it should move no more than 1 inch by hand. Your push rod is not cracked, broken, or missing in any way. It is connected to the slack adjuster by pins and cotter pins that are present and tight, and it goes on to your slack adjuster from there. Your slack adjuster is mounted securely between your push rod and your S-cam shaft, and is mounted with nuts and bolts and pins and cotter pins that are present and tight. Your slack adjuster itself is not cracked, broken, or missing. And from there you move on to your brake drum. Your brake drum is mounted securely to your center hub with lug nuts and lug bolts that are present and tight. And it is not blue from overheating. There's no cracks, dents, or holes. And then you have your brake linings, which are mounted securely to the brake shoes with rivets that are present and tight. And your brake linings themselves are not cracked, damaged, or broken in any other way. And they are no less than 1/4 inch thick of material. You have your torque arm, which goes from your from your axle to your body, and is mounted securely with nuts and bolts and bushings that are present and tight. And you have, your torque arm is not cracked, bent, broken, or twisted. You have your airbag mounts, which are mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your airbag mounts are not cracked, broken, or missing. And your airbags themselves mount between the two mounts, and they are not cracked, cut, or leaking. You have your shock absorbers, which are mounted again with nuts and bolts and bushings that are present and tight. And your shock absorber is not cracked, broken, or leaking. Now we're going to move on to the rear of the bus. At the rear of the bus, you have a tailpipe right up here. It is mounted securely with nuts, bolts, clamps, and hangers that are present and tight. It has no rust or soot buildup indicating a leak. You have 5 clearance lights here. You have 2 tail lights here, 2 here, 2 here. You will have 2 reflector strips, 1 here and 1 here. They are all mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. They are not cracked, broken, or missing on the lenses, and they are all red in color. You have 2 indicators. You have a left and a right that also serve as 4-way flashers. They are mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. Your lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are amber in color. You have your 2 reverse lights, which are here and here. You have a marquee light, and you also have a tag light, which are all mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. The lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are clear in color. Moving on to the engine bay. Here, you'll have your coolant reservoir, which is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your coolant reservoir itself is not cracked, broken, or leaking. You have 2 sight glasses on your coolant reservoir that you'd be able to check your fluid level with, or you could wait for the engine to cool down, and then you could open the radiator cap and check it that way. Next, you have a exhaust system that's back here, and it is mounted securely with nuts, bolts, clamps, and hangers that are present and tight. It is not rusting it has no rust or soot buildup indicating a leak. And you also have an oil stick here that you would pull out, wipe off, put back in with the engine off, of course, and you would pull it back out one more time and check the fluid level for the oil. And if it is below the fill line, you would add more oil to the engine. If it was above the fill line, then you would leave it alone. Next, you have your water pump, which will be over here. It does not have one in this video model, but you'll have one right here that's mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. It is not cracked, broken, or leaking in any way. It has hoses that go to it, and they are connected by clamps and fittings that are present and tight. The hoses themselves have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. Your water pump is belt driven. The belt itself is not cut, frayed, ripped, or excessively worn. And if you were to put your hand on it with the engine off again, it would not move more than 3/4 of an inch. Up here you'll have an alternator that is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your alternator is not cracked, damaged, and its connections with wires are good and tight. Your alternator is also belt driven. Again, the belt is not worn, frayed, cut, or torn in any way, and it is not going to move more than 3/4 of an inch if you put your hand on it. Now around here, just behind here, you'll have the air compressor, which is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your air compressor is not cracked, damaged, or leaking in any way. And it has hoses that go to it as well that are mounted securely with clamps and fittings that are present and tight. Your air compressor your air compressor hoses are not have any abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. Your air compressor is also gear driven. Now behind the air compressor you'll have your power steering pump, which is mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. Your power steering pump is not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Your power steering pump also has hoses that go to it. They are mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. It is not cracked, damaged, or leaking in any way. And it also has hoses that go to it. I believe I've said all this. If I have, please forgive me. I'm just making double sure. The hoses that are connected by fittings and clamps that are present and tight. They have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. And your power steering pump is also gear driven. Now on this model you cannot open this side panel. However, there is a power steering reservoir right here that is mounted securely with nuts, bolts, and a clamp that are present and tight. It is not cracked, damaged, or leaking in any way. With the engine off, I would remove the dipstick that's at the top, pull it out, and check the fluid level of my power steering reservoir that way. My overall hoses are mounted securely with no abrasions, bulges, cuts, cracks, or leaks. My overall wires are connected securely with no cuts, cracks, frayeds, or burns. That concludes the engine bay. Now we have the curb side of the bus. We have a clearance light here and a reflector strip that'll be again in this area, mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. The lenses are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are red in color. You have your ride indicators here and here. You'll also have a center clearance light here, and you have a clearance light here and another clearance strip here. Now something that's different here in this model and in real life is that right here you'll also have a kneeling warning light. All of these lenses are going to be mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. They are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they are all amber in color. All of your windows on this side are mounted securely in the rubber trim. You also have a destination window here that is also mounted securely in a rubber trim. They are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they have no illegal stickers. You're going to have a fuel door here, which you can open up, and inside will be your fuel tank. It is mounted securely with nuts, bolts, and straps that are present and tight. Your fuel tank itself is not cracked, damaged, or leaking in any way. Your fuel cap is nice and secured. It's tight. It's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. You have two step lights that are going to be here and here, and another one that'll be right here. They are mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. They will be not cracked, broken, or missing, and they will be clear in color. Now, here you have your rear door, which is mounted securely on hangers that are present and tight. Your rear door opens and shuts properly and smoothly, and when it is shut, it has a nice tight seal right here in the middle. You have your glass, which is mounted securely in the rubber trim as well, and they are not cracked, broken, or missing, and they also have no illegal stickers. Moving on to the front door, you have it mounted with, again, hangers that are mounted and secure. They are not cracked. I'm sorry, your hinges are mounted securely, and your doors on the front open and close securely. And they have no missing windows. They're not cracked, damaged, or any illegal stickers. You have a good tight seal here and for the front door. So now we are going to open the doors, and I will now show you the entryway. You have handles here that are mounted securely with screws that are present and tight. You'll have a walk light here and a walk light here that are present and tight. They will be mounted securely with screws and rubber grommets that are present and tight. Your lenses will not be cracked, broken, or missing, and they will be clear in color. Here will be your handicap ramp that will be properly stored. It is not leaking, it is mounted securely, and it is not missing any parts. It is operated by switches on your dash here, and if those switches for whatever reason are not working, you'll have a loop that'll be right around in this area that you would pull it up manually, and of course you'll ask the DOT officer, would you like a demonstration? Now, 3 points of contact as you enter the vehicle. You'll have handrails that go all along the bus. They go all along the sides or down the middle of the bus. They are mounted securely with they're just mounted securely. That's right. They're mounted securely, and all of the seats that you have here, they are all mounted securely with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. The frames themselves are not cracked, damaged, or loose. The cushions are not torn or loose in any way. You have 4 emergency windows, 2 here, 2 here. They are going to be mounted securely, and how they open is there will be a red handle here that you will pull down, and you will push the bottom of the window out, and then that's how those operate. You have an emergency exit hatch here and 1 emergency exit hatch that's back here. They are properly labeled on how to operate them, and they are mounted securely. You'll have 3 triangles that'll be back here behind the chair. 3 red triangles that all operate properly, have no missing parts, and again, there's 3 of them. There should be no less than 3. You have a fire extinguisher that is also going to be mounted back here inside of its fire extinguisher clamp. You'll check the charge by the needle or the gauge that is on the fire extinguisher itself. If it's in the green, you're good. Now up here, it's not in this model unfortunately, but there will be a fuse box here. This is where you keep all your miscellaneous fuses. Now, inside the cockpit, I have my seat belt, which is mounted securely to the floor with nuts and bolts that are present and tight. My seat belt is not frayed, cracked, frayed, cut, or torn, or ripped, and it latches securely. I have my temperature gauge here, which is, after doing the seatbelt, you'll honk your horn, that saying that it works. You will then perform a safe start. What you'll need to do is you'll need to turn this knob twice from the off position, which this is the off position, so you'll turn it twice. Start the vehicle. Make sure your transmission's in neutral. Make sure your transmission's in neutral. Make sure your parking brake is applied before you start the bus. Your air pressure gauge is rising to a governor cutout, no less than 120, no more than 140. Your oil pressure is at operational pressure ranges. Your voltmeter gauge will show you that your batteries are being charged by your alternator. I don't know how to activate them in here, but you have wiper blades that operate on all their settings. You'll also have washers that you'll press the wiper blades button in and it'll activate those. You also have a heater defrost that you will figure out how to use, and whenever you do, you'll turn it on all settings, and it will you'll say that it appears to be working properly. Up here, you'll have gauges that are not in this model again, but you'll start off by saying my left indicator is working, my right indicator is working, my hazards are working, which you'll have a switch right here for your hazards, and you'll flip them on. And then you'll say then you're going to get out, because that's the cockpit. You're going to get out, come back here, you're going to chock your wheels by putting them behind here, and then you're going to say, alright, I'm going to begin my air brake test. Now how you will do this is you're going to shut the bus off. That's completely off. You're going to turn this knob 2 clicks forward without starting the bus. There will be a button here that you press to start the bus. Do not press it at this time. You're going to hold your service brake and make sure that you lose no more than 3 pounds of pressure in 1 minute. So we will do that now. I've started my timer, and you will actually hold this down for a solid minute. Another thing is too, you want to release your parking brake before you start this. While holding your service brake, press in your parking brake, and again, you're still going to hold this service brake for a minute. We're at 30 seconds now. Okay, it has been a minute. You lost no more than 3 pounds of pressure. What you're going to do is you're going to begin fanning your brake until your low air light comes on. It should do so no less than 60 psi. Okay, it came on. Although I don't see it on this model again, it's kind of weird, but you know, there it goes. Okay, so it came on, looks like, yep, right at 60 psi. Okay, so now we're going to continue to fan our brake until our parking brake pops up. It should do so no less than 25 psi. What you're hearing is me clicking the controller. There it goes. It popped up. Okay, it did so no less than 25 psi. So now what we're going to do is we are going to start the engine and let this pressure rise. Once it reaches 85, we're going to time how long it takes to get to 40 or to 100. It should take no less than 40 or no more than 45 seconds. All right. This is called the pressure buildup test. So we're going to let it build. Okay, so it's building. You're watching this gauge here. Now, I am not sure how to turn on the is that it? No. Okay. Okay. So if that's 60, this is 60, this is 70, this is 80, this is 90. Which means that this is 100. So right about here, we're going to start our timer. And starting our timer. And that's 100. Took 25 seconds to do that. That test was successful. So now what we are going to do is we are going to perform a service brake hold test. A parking brake hold test. What we're going to do is put the vehicle in drive, and we're just going to let it roll or idle forward. It should not move. We will do that now. As you can see, we are in gear. The vehicle did not move. That test was successful. So now what we are going to do is we're actually going to release the parking brake, and now we're going to roll forward and test our service brake. We should roll forward only a couple of feet and then slam on the brakes to ensure that they work. We will begin that test now. There you go. Notice the wheel did not move one side to the other. That concludes our pre-trip inspection. Put the vehicle in neutral, reapply the brake. You're going to get out and remove the chalk from the wheel, and then you are ready to begin your final drive, where they will do maneuvers and they will put you on the road. Hope this helps. Sorry if it's not 100% smooth. If there are things that I missed, please do let me know. But this has been this, and now thank you very much.